Hello there everybody and welcome to the Mr. Sin channel. Today we're going to be talking about corporations. We're going to look at what a corporation is, what is the difference between a common stock and a preferred stock, what are some ways that corporations could organize themselves, and advantages and disadvantages to having a corporation. At the end of the video too, we'll have our debate topic of the day, so make sure to stick around for the end so you can see what that topic is. Now enough of me talking, let's figure out what's going on in the world of corporations. Here it comes. If you've seen my videos before, you've heard this speech, but I mean it. Take out the guided notes. You can find them in the description below. The guided notes go right along with the video and they'll help you understand the main concepts. Plus, when you need a review, you can just look back on your notes and you don't have to rewatch the whole video. So take out your notes and let's figure out what's going on with corporations. Some of you in the United States may have heard that corporations are people. And actually, for the most part, that's true. Corporations are their own legal entity. They have their own identity. Corporations can own land. They can get into legal agreements. They can sue people and be sued. Corporations have their own individual rights, just like people in the United States. Now, a corporation, unlike some of the other forms of business we've talked about on this channel, it's a very formal agreement, and it takes a lot of time to start. You'll have to talk with the national government or your state government, wherever you're operating your headquarters in. And if you do get approved, you will have to create a charter. Now, a charter is a government-issued document that is going to go over all the different aspects of the corporation. It'll talk about the address, the purpose of it, the business structure, how it's going to be run, how things would be passed down. It'll talk about stock options if you're going to offer any. And so the charter goes into all of the nuts and bolts of the corporation. And it's very important. It's a big time-consuming process and it can be expensive to start. Now, corporations get to decide if they want to be a publicly traded company or if they want to stay in the private sector. If they decide to go public, they can then offer stocks. Now, stocks can take the form of common stocks or preferred stocks. If you are a stockholder or a shareholder, you own part of the company. So for example, right now I own shares in Google and Facebook and a bunch of other companies. Technically, part of YouTube I am a very, very small owner of because I own some shares. Now there's common and preferred stocks. I've referenced this already. Now if you own common stocks, you get to vote. You get to vote on different decisions. For example, when they're changing management or if they're going to propose a big drastic change to the company. Common stockholders get one vote per share that they own. So theoretically, if you own the majority of the shares of the company, then you could take over the company and you would be in charge because you'd be able to put whoever you wanted to because you have the most votes and majority would win then. If you have preferred stocks, you don't get voting options, but you do normally get then a dividend and you get a cash payment quarterly. You will also at the same time too, if the company, let's say, decides to close down or goes bankrupt, you get all of your money back before anyone else. Now the company will have to settle all of their debts and any payments that they have to make first, but then any leftover money goes to preferred stockholders first. And for common, if you're out of money, if the company is after paying everyone, tough luck for you. So there's different advantages to being a common stockholder and a preferred. At the same time too, if a company becomes very profitable, they may decide to offer dividends. Now we're going to go into more of the stock options and dividends later on in our personal finance unit. So check out those videos for a more in-depth look at the stock market. But right now we're just kind of setting up the stage for that and getting some basic information out there. All of this though has to do with corporations because it's how they're funded and how they are operated. A lot of times we can see takeover bids through actually people trying to buy the majority shareholders. Now, another thing that happens too is when shares are purchased, that money then can go to the corporation to run the day-to-day business or even help start it take off. So the money from those stocks that is generated then goes back to the business. And so that's what's going on with stocks. There's a bunch of different ways that corporations operate and run and manage their business. We're going to talk about just kind of a generic outline that can apply to a bunch of them. And that is at the top we have our ownership. These are our shareholders. These are the people that own common stocks. Now they get voting rights. They get to vote and elect the board of directors. The board of directors then is going to kind of oversee the company. And if the shareholders ever become discontent with the board of directors, they could vote them out and vote someone else in. Now, at the same time too, the board of directors will pick a president. You also might hear terms of a CEO or a CFO or a COO. Then those people then have to operate the business. The president then goes and picks different vice presidents for each of the different sectors of their own company. Maybe you need someone who's managing product control. Maybe you need customer service. Maybe you have the production that needs to be managed. And so corporations can get very complicated very fast. There's a lot of people that have a say in it, and there's a lot of people that have to figure out what to do in order to make sure that the company becomes successful. So everyone has a very specialized role in the formation of a corporation. Now that we have a good understanding of what a corporation is, how it's organized, and also the difference between a common and preferred stock, it's time to go into some of the advantages and disadvantages. Now, one of the big advantages for a corporation is it's really easy for them to get money. Now, they can sell stock on the stock market and generate money that way. Now, the downside there is they give up equity and ownership of the company. The other thing, though, that they could do is go to a bank for money, or they could go to the bond market. The bond market, then they could get a bond, which is essentially an IOU, a loan, and they would have to pay back a coupon payment, which is the interest rate on whatever the debt that they are taking on is. Now, if you need more information on bonds and the bond market and coupon payments, check out my video on the bond market. You can click the card on the top right. Now, the other thing that's a big advantage for corporations is it's really easy to attract new people, and it's easy to attract talent because you are normally generating higher amounts of revenue, you can offer more competitive packages, and you also will have a bigger global influence. Now, another big advantage to a corporation is there's actually very limited liability to the owners. Unlike our other types of businesses, a partnership and a sole proprietorship, which had unlimited liability, there's almost none for a corporation. And that's because a corporation has its own legal status. The corporation is the one that people can go after, but you can't go after the individual people working in it. So for example, let's say I have a manufacturing company that is currently polluting a river next to this town. And this town gets upset, and the people try to sue me, the CEO of the corporation. Well, they wouldn't be able to. They could sue the corporation because the corporation is the one doing the polluting. So I am protected. I am more willing then to take risks and try to pursue things. And that's the whole point. The corporation can be sued and can sue, but you can't go after the individuals in the corporation. So that's a big advantage there. The other big advantage is corporations have a theoretically unlimited lifespan. They can go on for generation after generation and can get passed down. So their legal status keeps them alive. They don't just go away after the owner or the original founders decide they no longer want to be a part of it. Corporations also have a lot of disadvantages. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. One, it's just really expensive to start a corporation. It requires a lot of paperwork, a lot of time, and there's a lot of legal jargon that you have to sift through. You have to make sure that you get approval through your state government and also the national government, depending on also where you're operating. If you get even bigger and you decide to go global, there's a whole nother complexity that gets thrown into it. Corporations are very expensive to start. They also are going to require a lot of time from you. As it's growing too, it's going to be harder to manage the small things. As you now have multiple locations, especially if you start spreading out throughout the United States, and again, even globally, it becomes harder for you to do tasks you used to, as now you have to take on bigger responsibilities. And if corporations want to offer stock, that's great, but then they have to file with the SEC, the Federal Securities Exchange Commission, which is going to regulate stock options. Then, too, your corporation will have to report their quarterly reports, where they're going to have to say their financial information, what happened last quarter, give guidance for the future. And if shareholders become discontent, they could try to overrule you. They could try to take your corporation by owning a majority stake in your corporation. So you could actually lose it. Now, too, with that, corporations have to deal with mergers and acquisitions. Now, this is great because it's growing a corporation, but because corporations are so big, the government then can step in and they can regulate that and they can put different things on that corporation. They could reject a merger or reject an acquisition because they say you become a monopoly or that it's just not in the best interest as consumers. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with mergers and acquisitions, click on the card on the top right now and view my video on those. So you can see there's a bunch of different things going on with corporations. There's a lot of advantages, but there's disadvantages as well. I hope now you have a good understanding of what a corporation is, what's the difference between a common stock and a preferred stock, how could a corporation organize itself, and advantages and disadvantages. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and check out some of the other videos on the channel. Now, I'm going to leave you with our debate topic of the day. I promised it to you at the start of the video. But the debate topic I have for you is, should a corporation be treated as its own legal entity? Should a corporation be a person? Should it not? Why or why not? Take a minute to think about it. Write it down in your guided notes, post it in the comments in the YouTube channel, and talk about it later on with your friends, family, because of course, economics and business, that's all I'm sure you talk about. Now, enough of me talking and ranting on. Good luck figuring out the answer to that question, and have a great day. I'm Mr. Sin, and I'll see you next time online.